Welcome back to the Splash City Basketball Podcast. I'm Steve Hartman, and this is the second installment of my 3&D conference previews, where I will look at the three main storylines and pick a dark horse team or player within the league. Today's preview, I am looking at the ACC, a historic league with some of the biggest brands in college basketball, but undergoing a bit of a sea change right now. Mike Krzyzewski, Jim Boeheim, Roy Williams, Rick Pitino, Tony Bennett, even Leonard Hamilton, long departed, and there's a new era in the ACC. Looking to win their first NCAA title since Virginia won it back in the Twin Cities in 2019. So with that, let's get into it. The first storyline we'll look at is the reign of Duke. Duke has a dominance in the league the last few years, even stretching from Krzyzewski's last couple to this current edition with John Shire. Duke is the preseason favorite. They won the league last year at 19-1. They are perennial national title contenders, though I would say this year maybe not quite as much. It'll be tough to replicate last year's squad with Cooper Flagg, Con Knipple, Kaman Malowach, but they're going to do their best. Shire brings in star power in Cam Boozer, son of former Dookie Carlos Boozer. He's the ACC Preseason Rookie of the Year. He's a legitimate National Player of the Year candidate. The last episode on the Big 12 preview, we talked about Darren Peterson at Kansas and AJ DeBanza at BYU. Cam Boozer is the third. This could be the best draft pick potential in a long time. Cam Boozer is a physical player. He's a smart player. He can play inside and out. He's 6'9", and he is going to be a really fun player to watch. I think he's not maybe quite as dynamic as the other two, but he has a little bit more of his dad's physicality in it, and he's not a true wing like the other two players are. Now, Duke does have a nice returning group with Caleb Foster and Isaiah Evans. Isaiah Evans is a knockdown shooter. And they also bring in, with Cam Boozer, his twin brother, Caden, who will be point guard. And then they also have some other high-ranked recruits in the freshman class. So Duke is the preseason favorite. They are a top 10 team, preseason ranked top 10 team. But I do think there is some competition this year. Louisville last year, Louisville was right behind them, actually only a game behind them at 18-2. And Pat Kelsey in year two will be even tougher to beat. I think this is probably the best team, or the team most equipped to take Duke down in the ACC. He is bringing in star freshman guard Michael Brown Jr. He has portal addition with Ryan Conwell, and local player that Twin Cities fans will be familiar with is Javon Hadley, played at Colorado a couple years, was in the NCAA tournament with them now, and this is his second year now at Louisville. So I've always enjoyed Pat Kelsey. His teams at Charleston were really fun to watch. They always put a charge in to the NCAA tournament, whoever they were playing. It was kind of a trendy upset pick. So I think Louisville, with the second year of Pat Kelsey, who's not going to back down from anybody, I think they will challenge Duke at the top of the ACC. Another big name in the world of college basketball, UNC. Hubert Davis is under some pressure since his 2022 title game appearance with the Tar Heels. They've kind of underperformed the last couple years. They bring in a highly touted freshman as well, Caleb Wilson, but they lost a few guys, notably Elliot Cadeau, who went to Michigan. So Hubert Davis is under a lot of pressure this year. If they aren't a top 3 team in the ACC, maybe a top 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, the screws are going to tighten in Chapel Hill again for Hubert Davis. We'll see where they end up. I think this is a big year for him, and sometimes that can turn the intensity up, and the team overplays maybe where they're slotted, and otherwise it could turn ugly in Chapel Hill real quick. Storyline number 2, let's talk about the coaching changes. So I mentioned at the top, a lot of big names have left this league, and I think that is maybe one reason why you've seen the lack of NCAA tournament teams. Last year there was only 4 out of the ACC, but there were some colossal names in the ACC with Jim Boeheim and Tony Bennett and Krzyzewski and Roy Williams. And it's hard replacing those types of coaches. Those are legends. Those are Hall of Fame coaches. But let's talk about some of these new guys. Will Wade at NC State is the most obvious, biggest name. A lot of people are predicting big things for NC State in year 1. Will Wade was at LSU and then got into a little bit of trouble. He took a hit and ended up at McNeese State for the last 2 years, where they were a phenomenal mid-major team and made the NCAA tournament. So year 1 for Will Wade will be interesting because he plucks Darion Williams from Texas Tech, and he is picked to be the preseason player of the year. So Will Wade already making a huge impact in the transfer portal. He also brought with him Creighton-Durham Hall player Trey Holloman, who was from Michigan State previously. So there is some experience. Another name that Will Wade brought to NC State is Terrence Arsenault, who was on the Houston roster. Wasn't a major contributor, but he was part of that team that was in the championship game last year. So the Wolfpack are picked to finish 4th in the ACC this year, according to the preseason polls. Now, another name that may be familiar to college basketball fans is Ryan Odom. He takes over at Virginia after being at VCU, and Ryan Odom is the son of former Wake Forest coach Dave Odom. So he steps into some big shoes in Charlottesville. Virginia has strong history. They've had recent success. They've, last couple years kind of dropped off. I don't think they've won a tournament game since they won the national title in 2019. So they're going to, transition probably a little bit away from Bennett's style of play, which was a little bit methodical, pack line defense, and Odom at VCU, at least, they've had some great teams at VCU. So I'm excited to see what Ryan Odom does at Virginia. Former Duke assistant Jai Lucas takes over at Miami for Jim Larranaga. Again, Larranaga took Miami to a Final Four. They've had good teams. They've had tons of talent. And Lucas will look to get Miami back to some national relevance there in Coral Gables. Lastly is Luke Laux at Florida State, former player there for the Seminoles, takes over for Leonard Hamilton. So, there's 4 programs that have had, like Florida State had some great teams. Leonard Hamilton was getting to Sweet 16s and Elite 8s. So these are 4 programs that have had success. NC State was in a Final Four 2 years ago with Kevin Keats. So these are programs that are ready to make a move, and it's which one of these guys comes in. The obvious choice is Will Wade at NC State to have the biggest move in year 1 just because of Darion Williams and some of the players they picked up. But I think long term, I expect Ryan Odom and Virginia to be legit and to be back into that top 4 in the ACC. All right, storyline number 3. Let's talk about NCAA tournament bids. So this is a kind of a, black eye or what you would call it for the ACC, but they have traditional powerhouse programs here, and last year only had 4 teams in the NCAA tournament: Duke, Louisville, Clemson, and UNC. This year, my projection, probably going to have 5. I just don't think there's enough improvement with some of these teams. Like Louisville will be there, Duke will be there. UNC and NC State and Virginia are my other 3 that I picked to be in. But things at UNC specifically, and even Virginia, you don't know how that's going to go. They have to perform well in the non-conference slate. Other teams that'll be vying for a bid, SMU, Clemson. I love Brad Brownell and Clemson. They have Alexandria's Chase Thompson on the roster this year. And Miami are other teams that maybe have a chance to make the tournament. I just don't Clemson lost a lot from last year's squad, so I find it. And Brownell always seems to get his teams to overperform projections. But if I had to pick today, I'd say 5 teams get in, and it's kind of the teams you would expect just based on both brand and experience. Duke, Louisville, UNC, NC State, and I have Virginia in. All right, so those are the 3 storylines. Now let's talk about the dark horse pick that I have for the ACC. I'm going with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and here's why. I like Micah Shrewsbury, former Penn State coach. I think they are poised to outpace their preseason ranking, which is number 10. I think they're going to finish closer to 6th in the ACC. Love point guard Marcus Burton. He led the ACC in scoring last year. He's all ACC first team in the preseason. And then they're bringing with Burton the highest rated player to ever come to Notre Dame, and that is Jalen Harrelson. So he's going to give Shrewsbury not only a combo of elite scoring experience with Burton, but now he's got a young, dynamic guard to go with him. So I think those two together really make Notre Dame tough. And, the ACC, top to bottom, isn't the toughest league. So if you have two dynamic guards that can get buckets, that can control pace, you will win a lot of games in this league. Are they going to be a tournament team? I'm not quite sure I'm ready to say that, but I do like Notre Dame. I like where they're headed. I think Shrewsbury is a good coach, and I think he's going to get a lot out of the guys he has. His front court is older guys as well. So he's got experience in Burton. He's got dynamic freshmen, and then he's got some bigger, older guys that can bang down low in the ACC. So that's my pick. Those are my 3-and-D, the 3 storylines and dark horse pick for the ACC. Again, we are only days away from the start of college basketball season. More conference previews to come. Thanks for listening. This has been the Splash City Basketball Podcast.
Back in that bag.